Okay, welcome to the video. Sig Guy here. This is just going to be a quick video showing how to use a new tool that I came up with. And this tool is used to install the recoil springs on a non-captured 1911 style guide rod for your Sig Sauer P365Xl. Your hands are going to love you for this. So without wasting any more time, let's get started. So just real quick before we get started, I know side note right out of the gate, I just want to thank everybody that supported me the previous year, 2024. All the support, it's been tremendous. I basically have no life anymore because all I do is package orders for the minute I get up to about 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning. We try to get everything out the next day, but not a complaint. Very appreciative to all you guys, even the occasional knucklehead that comes through that gives me a hard time. I love you guys too, but thank you very much for all your support. I do appreciate it. So let's take a look at our factory guide rod real quick. So let's do a field strip on our XMACRO. If you have an XL, it's going to be the same thing. We're going to remove our guide rod assembly. I'm going to answer a couple questions that I get all the time in this video. So hopefully it'll cut down on the amount of questions people ask, especially when it's repetitive. So when we're buying a recoil reduction kit, like a DPM kit for our pistol, it's very confusing to a lot of people, which is understandable because in the description or the product name, it really refers to your barrel length. So 3.1 inch, 3.7 inch, 4.7 inch. It's very confusing for people. So you got to understand what you have. So what we have here with our XMACRO is a XL length slide, but we're using the 3.1 inch barrel. Okay. So obviously we can't have a 3.7 inch barrel because it would cover up our ports and then the ports would be pretty much useless. So SIG basically took an XL slide, put an integrated or expansion chamber in it, they call, and they used the 3.1 inch barrel that they've had forever, and they continue to use the 3.7 inch guide rod because that's the one that goes in this slide. So our dust cover goes to the end of our slide, which the end of your guide rod goes to the end of the dust cover. Okay, if we had a shorter slide, the one that went to like here, we would need a shorter guide rod, which is here. This is our 3.1 inch guide rod. Okay, so that would go to our barrel right up against our slide there, and that would be our 3.1 inch kit. Okay, but we don't have a 3.1 inch slide. We got a 3.7 inch slide. So make sure you know what you're ordering. That way you can get the right product to you and it doesn't have to be returned. So there's that, and here's our factory assembly. Okay. Our spring is on there. The ends are put on. It's basically a non-serviceable item. Basically, once you get the round count on it where they recommend replacing it, you replace it as an assembly. So if you need the assembly, here's your factory assembly. There's our part number. Okay, we are a master SIG accessory dealer, so we have just about all the factory parts for all your pistols, your 365s, your 320s, and your classic series SIGs. So if you need any of those factory parts, just throw them in your cart. We'll get those right out to you in your order. So this is our factory captured guide rod assembly. Okay, why do I need a kit like this? Good question. So if you don't have an expansion chamber or an integrated comp on your slide and you want to put a comp on it, or you want to add a suppressor, you're just basically changing the weight, the mass of your slide. Okay, the mass is the round that cycles the slide. The weight of the slide is based upon the round, basically. So there's sometimes in a slide you see channels where they've carved out the metal. It's to reduce the mass to get it to cycle reliably. Okay, so if you've added a chunk of metal to the end of your slide, now that round that you're shooting doesn't have enough power to slam your slide up against the ejector to knock the brass out of the port. Okay, so a lot of times people have like 115 grain ammo. 115 grain ammo, I mean, depending on which one you get, sometimes people have no problems with it at all. A lot of times people have nothing but problems. They're like, hey, this won't feed another round. Well, it's because it didn't knock the previous round of the case out of there, so it can't feed another round. Why did that happen? It's because your slide didn't go to the rear hard enough to hit the ejector to knock that brass out. So what can you do? You can put a lighter spring in it. That lighter spring will have less resistance, so now our slide can go back harder and eject that brass. If you're a competitive shooter or something like that and you're using a low power factor round that you've designed, or you're just using low power factor ammo, you need a lighter spring. If you want a heavier round, a 147 or something like that, this thing is like, it's got some knockdown power. That's what you want to carry. It's really beating up your pistol, though. You want a heavier spring in it to kind of make that not hit as far rearward as the factory spring is doing. So that's why you would want to use a tuning kit. So now let's get into the tuning kit itself and the tool. I'll show you how to install the heaviest spring on this guide rod, because that's the one you're going to have nothing but problems with, and this tool will make your life a lot easier. So let's move on to that. So here is what this guide rod looks like with this spring on it. Okay, basically it looks just like your factory option pretty much. Okay, except it's got a bolt on the end, a little washer which retains our spring, which is on the guide rod. Okay, so this spring used to be that long, and the problem people have is these are flat wire springs, so they're not really easy on your fingers like the round wire ones when you're trying to collapse that spring. Now you got to collapse that spring all the way on this guide rod, hold it with one hand, put the washer on, put the screw in, all while holding that, and that thing's really wreaking havoc on your hand. So even I have a hard time. I mean, I've been doing this stuff for a long time, and my previous profession, my hands aren't sissy hands, and they're pretty strong. So even I have a hard time putting the 16 and 18 on. So I imagine a lot of people do have an issue, and basically I want to make sure that it's not a handicap to them, you know what I'm saying, to where they can't enjoy the benefits of these products because they can't install the product themselves. So I came up with a new tool, okay, which this is here, and this one's made for the 365Xl XMACRO. Okay, it's a two-piece design. This is basically going to collapse and hold the spring while we put the washer in. So I'm going to disassemble this, and then we'll show you how the tool reassembles it. All right, so I got a cutaway of the outside portion, which is this right here. I'm going to show you how this thing works, okay, before we do it. So you can see you got the slot here and the slot there that these tabs ride in. So it's going to go all the way up into it. Then we're going to do a quarter turn, and then it's going to sit in that other notch with the shelf, which is going to prevent that from going back down. It's going to hold it for us, okay? So this piece here is going to go up like that until you can't push no more. Do a quarter turn, let it go, and then I wiggle it back and forth to make sure I'm in between those two notches that are holding it. And I made this loose on purpose. It wasn't exact fit, and it was kind of hard to get that to where you knew it was in the notch, okay? With this here, I can wiggle it back and forth, and I can feel one stop, one stop, one stop, one stop, okay? And then when we disassemble it, we're going to push it all the way up, quarter turn, slides right out, okay? So that's our tool, how that works. So and how to use it, we're going to install our spring just like this, okay? And then there's a little shelf in there that keeps it from going all the way through. We're going to stick our guide rod in the end of our spring, just like that. This is the 18-pound spring, okay? Very hard to put in on the guide rod, collapse it all the way, put the washer on and the screw on, okay? Almost impossible, really. So then we're going to take this, we're going to insert it into our tool. We're going to line this tab up with this slot, and we're going to hold this with our fingertips, like on the end here. We're not going to go like this because you're going to have to readjust your grip, because this whole thing's got to go up inside our body here, okay? So we're going to line up those two tabs just like that. We're going to push it all the way in, quarter turn. You feel that little as it went over that high spot, and then side to side. I can go to the lock, or the stop. I know it's in that notch, okay? So let's put on some eye protection before we're doing this, okay? In case this thing comes flying out of there, we don't put an eye out. Basically treat this thing like a loaded firearm, because there's a lot of spring tension on that. Now, if something comes loose, something breaks or whatever, and it releases all that energy, you really don't want to get hit with it. We don't want to point it at anybody or anything, okay? Unless you intend to destroy it. Anyway, so we got that all collapsed. It's in there. And we can see our end is sticking. Oops, our end is sticking out. Now we can take our washer. Put our washer on there. Okay. We can take our screw. Put our screw on there. Maybe a little blue 242 Loctite. Snug that screw up. We don't want to crank that screw. We just want to snug it up with some blue 242 on there. Okay. And you can see how easy this is. I'm not straining. My fingers aren't hating me right now. So now I'm going to push it in, quarter turn, and let it come out. Okay. Doesn't get any easier than that. So we have our spring and everything. We want to disassemble it now because we want to put a lighter spring on it. Maybe it's just not cycling. Maybe we're just kind of testing things. So that's another question I get too is people buy a kit and they're like, hey, SIG guy, which one should I use? Which spring? And it's like, bro, I have no idea. I mean, I don't know what type of ammo you're shooting. I don't know how you're holding the gun. If you got a tight grip or a loose grip, believe it or not, that'll affect the way that the slide cycles. Are you riding the slide with your thumb? Did you have a comp on it, suppressed? I have no idea. So it's not one size fits all. You can ask a million people, and you should get really a million different answers, even though there's 4 springs in the kit. But it's not the same for everybody. It's something you have to take the time, bring your kit to the range or outside or whatever you're shooting with the ammo you intend to use in it and the ammo you intend to carry in it, or if you're competing, you know, the ammo you're going to use. And tune that pistol with the spring kit to that round. Okay, that's basically the only answer. Nobody can give you an answer. Nobody can give you a starting point. Always start with the heaviest spring. That way it doesn't damage your slide, hitting, you know, to the rear too hard. If you put a super light spring in it and you're using 147 grain, well, that 147 round has a lot of power. It's going to slam that slide really hard to the rear. So start with the heaviest spring. If you're getting extraction issues, failure to feed and all that stuff, put the next lighter one in it, put the next lighter after that, put the next lighter after that, until it runs 100% reliably. That's the answer to the question. So when we want to remove this assembly, basically just reverse the procedure. We're going to put it in there so we see the screw through the little hole. We're going to lock it together. So basically push in, quarter turn, let it click into place like it did. Remove our screw. Sometimes the washer comes out, sometimes it doesn't come out. This hole here is, I mean, just a nick bigger than the washer. It has to be, because any bigger than that, then the spring comes through it. Anyway, so that's not a problem. Just make sure that's in your hand. When you unlock it and you release it, that washer will fall right out in your hand. Okay, so there's our washer. There's our spring. There's our guide rod. All right, I forgot to mention this, and I'm going to splice this into the video. There's a really important reason why I package these individually. A couple different reasons. One, it's so you know what spring weight is. When you buy this type of product in a kit, usually they're color coded, and they're color coded with spray paint. There's a problem with the spray paint is it doesn't last forever. Okay, especially if you know how these things get made. There's assembly lube and all that stuff. They're drenched with oil afterwards, so they don't rust, for one, and they have to do it for the process when they make it. So when you get them back, you basically want to spray paint it. Well, you're not going to degrease the springs to apply the paint like it should be and then re-oil it afterwards. It's just not practical. So most companies just spray paint the ends, put them back in the bag, and ship it. Well, all that paint, when it falls off the spring, all ends up around your barrel, all inside there, because I use Tetra grease and everything, and you should be lubing this stuff also. All that paint's just going to stick to all that, and it's just going to make a big mess in here. So with OCD and everything, and I just can't have any of that mess. So packaging them individually takes care of that issue. And another important issue or thing we're trying to prevent is I don't feel people should have to pay for stuff that they don't need or they're not going to use. So when you buy a kit like this, if you're running a suppressor, you're probably not going to need the 18 and the 16 pound spring. So why make you pay for it? If you're running 147 grain or plus P plus, you ain't going to need a 12 pound or a 14 pound spring, most likely. So why have you guys pay for that just to throw it in a drawer. If you look at the pricing, and every competitor does the same exact thing, obviously you undercut your competitors by a little bit so people buy from you. So if you look at the 4-spring kits with 1 guide rod, ours is still cheaper than our competitors offering 4 springs and 1 guide rod. So it's cheaper as a kit, and it's obviously cheaper when you only buy what you need. Okay, so those are some pretty important points, and I try to apply that with like everything that I make for you guys. I want to save you guys money. Obviously, it makes people want to buy stuff from you, and you're getting a good product in return. So just thought that was important to add. Let's continue with the video. So that is how the tool works. Like I said, this one's specific for the XL kits. Okay, I will be making another one for the 3-1 kit. It does have a different size washer on it, so you can't use this handle as the hole's got to be bigger. But I will make another one of these kits for this one. And unfortunately, you can't use one kit for both, because if you get the kit made for this, then this hole's going to be too big to capture the spring that works on the XL. But this one is a bear to put together. Even the lightest spring, it is very hard to put on there. So this here should make it a breeze. Basically, I'm just trying to make things easier for you guys so you can enjoy these products. Maybe you've bought them in the past and be like, that was just nothing but a pain in the ass getting that thing put together, so you don't recommend it to other people. So I'm trying to fix that kind of a problem, and then just give you all the options so you can enjoy your SIG a lot more. So as you can see here, I got a lot of stuff laid out. This is the kit we just went over for the XL. We do have all the fuse stuff. It's our guide rod there. We have all our springs and all the different weight sizes for the fuse. We have the 320 compact stuff, guide rod with the bushing. Now all these guide rods will be offered in black and stainless. Okay, it's not all on the website yet because the stuff's being made right now, but the stuff that's on there, obviously it shows it as being black or stainless. So we have all our 320 stuff. Again, we have all our springs for that, which I'm going to be making a kit to assemble that. There is no screw here on the bottom of our guide rod, so we can't use this type of tool, unfortunately, because that would be cat's meow for all these kits. Anyway, so we have the compact, the fuse, the XL. We got full size, which is blue. Everything's kind of color coded too, so to kind of keep people from ordering the wrong springs with the wrong guide rods. So our full size stuff's blue, our XL's green, our fuse is burgundy, the compact is orange, the X5 long springs are black with green writing there, so you don't confuse these two because they're both full size 320. And then our 3.1 guide rod stuff is the baby blue. So if you haven't been to the website in a while, at the top of the home page it says SIG Guy Performance Parts. Click here or whatever, so you can go right to all of the stuff we have on our SIG Guy Performance line. In the drop-down menu under the factory parts, there's a sub-menu. First option, SIG Guy Performance Parts, or you can go to the SIG 365, SIG 320, so on and so forth. So that's how you get to this stuff. And then we have invested a lot of time and money into this stuff to offer to you guys. So just so you know, another common question we get, it's not always the same as the factory spring. So I don't want to offer a factory spring. Some things you do, you have to, because that's really the only choice you have. But if there's an improvement to be made, a good example is like our magazine catch springs. Okay, they're stainless steel. So as you're carrying all that moisture from your body, especially in the summertime, you get corrosion in the mag release spring around it. So now when you go to dump your mag, the spring don't release, it stays in because it's got all that crud inside there. So why not make a stainless steel spring so that doesn't happen? You know, and it's just that kind of mentality we apply to all the products. How can we make this product and how can we make it better? And then how can we sell it for cheap? So buying cheaper, not cheap as in quality, just less expensive. So when you buy stuff in bulk or make stuff in bulk, you can cut down on the price. So it costs us less, so we can charge you guys less. So just because it's less than the factory does not mean it's less quality. You're getting more features out of it for a lesser amount of money. So just kind of want to emphasize on that. So on the performance parts, you'll see we have tons of 365 springs, your trigger bar springs, your sear block springs, your safety lever springs, magcat springs, manual safety detent springs. Pretty much every spring available we have for the 365 and the 320. So make sure you check all that stuff out. Like I said, everything's all nicely individually packed, clearly labeled, so it doesn't get confused with other stuff. And it's just, again, just trying to do stuff for you guys to make your hobby or the firearm that you trust your life with, just make it more reliable and a better shooter. So that's why we do all this. But I know I just kind of rambled there for a second, but thank you very much. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube page, there should be a subscribe button right down here in the corner. Just like and subscribe to the page. I would greatly appreciate that. As always, thank you very much for watching, and have a good day.